Hello and welcome to another episode of A Stark Realization. Now, I've had some incredible guests already as we've started this venture in discussing education, some new topics, trends, as well as even some issues in education. And we're going to take a little bit of a different turn today, and I'm really excited about this guest. And not only am I excited for what our guest has to share, but also because I consider him not only a friend, but also an example and an inspiration. I had an opportunity of working with Coach Harmon, and I still call him Coach because he's a coach. I mean, he's always going to be coach to me because he continues to coach me on how I can see education and how I can reach more students. And that's really what we want to be talking about. It's what are those things that we can do in our career field as well as in life that's really going to make a difference for the next generation. And Coach Harmon has some awesome ideas and some things that he's going to share today. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and just introduce himself and let him talk a little bit about where he's been, what he does, and why he's on our show today. So, Coach, welcome to A Stark Realization. It is a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and talk to our guests as well. This is exciting. So a little bit about myself. So thank you. I still go by Coach. Everyone where I'm at now still calls me Coach, so I appreciate that. But yeah, so I started off teaching high school, taught for 10 years, coaching PE and then coaching basketball. And through those years, you know, I was able to build a lot of like great relationships with kids and kind of got to learn what they were about. And that has kind of set me onto this journey now where I'm not teaching anymore in the classroom, but I'm actually an education and transition specialist at a youth residential treatment center in Provo, Utah, and have been doing that for about 2 years now. So still teaching kind of, it's just kind of a different platform now where I'm not one-on-one with the kids. And obviously we have different kids that come in and out every 6 months to a year or so. So, you know, getting to reach more kids, really, I just don't have as much time, whereas high school, you know, you had 4 years often with kids. So
those who don't know what a transition specialist is, tell us a little bit about what that actually means in relation to working with a school and the students.
Yeah. So what I get to do now is I help the kids find out, you know, what credits do you still need to be able to graduate high school? I help them then be able to transition back home. So if they're looking at going to college, what does a college application look like? How do you get your scholarships? How do you get funding? How do you work through FAFSA? All those little aspects. What classes do you want to take? What major are you looking at? So I help them do all that. And then as well as I help them, again, transition back into what home life is going to be. How do you set up a bank account? How do you find a job? How do you put a resume together? What's an interview going to sound like for you? What are your skills? What are you good at? What do you want to be? So I help them do all those things.
Congratulations on the championship. So tell us, so where do you coach at?
I coach at American Fork High School, obviously in American Fork, Utah. So started coaching there last year. A guy I used to coach with down here in St. George at Dixie High School. He came up, he got the head coaching job there at American Fork. And once he came up here, knew that I was still in the area and gave me a call and asked if I wanted to come over. And I was like, absolutely, which turned out to be a great decision. And we had just had a great season and ended up coming off with the championship, first one in 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really big thing for the community. We had the previous coach there that was coaching the high school last time they won it. So he got to be there and be a part of it.
Oh,
he had a grandson on the part of the team. And it was just a really exciting, just community bonding experience. So it was really exciting to be a part of.
That's great. Who'd you guys have to face in the championship?
Pleasant Grove, funny enough. Pleasant Grove is our rival. And oddly enough, interesting fact is one of my previous players from Rock Springs, who I coached as a freshman, was Pleasant Grove's starting point guard.
Really?
So a little bit of a reunion there. So gotten to see him. He's a senior now this year, so still getting to see him. Really good kid though, and so it was just kind of funny how the universe works out in little weird ways like that. Where
that's cool.
Last time I'll see you, and then end up being literally just neighbors a year later. So.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations again.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Next brings us to kind of the main reason of why we wanted to have you here as a guest on A Stark Realization is you've got a new passion project, if you will, that I think is incredibly commendable. It's timely, and it's just really valuable and needed today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what Be the Need is, how it came about, and really what you see from bringing this forward.
Yeah. So in all honesty, I know like I've just kind of brought the Be the Need, like that slogan, I've just kind of brought that out. But honestly, that's something I've been working on achieving and learning more about, honestly, since probably about 18 years old. So I'm dating myself now, almost going on 20 years now. It's something that's something I've been building into. So, I came from a really great home. Just kind of interesting situation though, where I literally grew up quite literally the black sheep of the family. Was like the only black kid in an all white family, and just never really felt like I fit in really well. And so that just always it's felt like I was on the outside. And I had really great parents. I mean, I got a dad. He was the type of dad that taught me how to play baseball. We had literally one baseball. He'd take me to the field. He'd throw it. I'd hit it. He'd chase it down. He'd come back. He'd throw it. I'd hit it. He'd chase it down, come back, throw it. And I mean, we'd be out there doing that for hours. I don't know how the man did it with just one baseball. But even with that, I still felt like an outcast. It still felt like I didn't fit in. And at the age of 12, I was like, man, like I don't want to do this to my parents anymore. I don't want to feel like this outcast. I don't want to feel like this literally like walking scarlet letter for my family. And so at 12 years old, I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I had decided I was going to take my own life. And my older sister, actually, as I was getting ready, I had the whole day kind of prepared and planned out. I thought it all the way down to the smallest detail. I had the clothes kind of perfectly arranged in my closet, so that way there wasn't going to be like a big mess for my parents to have to kind of take care of. It's kind of just like a final I love you, I'm sorry kind of thing. And the one detail I forgot to lock the door. And just life being what it is, and I guess God intervening, my sister walked in right at that moment, and she just kind of had this shock on her face of like, what's going on, and that's a lot for anyone to really kind of take in and walk into. And she could have easily just freaked out, walked out, or, called mom and dad and just, but she came over and she just sat down with me, and we just kind of cried together about what was going on. And I just told her, I'm tired of feeling like this. I don't want to be the outcast. And she said something to me that completely changed my life, which was, while you may have not been planned, you were chosen. Mom and dad could have easily done something else, but instead they chose to keep you. They chose to take care of you. They chose to care for you. They chose to love you. And that completely changed my life at that point. Fast forward though, 5 years from there, and my sister that actually stepped in, she actually ended up committing suicide herself. And so that kind of started me on the need, because while she was able to be what I needed for me, I wasn't able to get outside of myself and really see what it was she needed. And so, like I said, that really started me on this whole journey of understanding that everyone's got a battle they're going through, and there's something that everybody needs. Everybody needs someone to feel like cares about them and really wants to know who they are and that their life matters. And that's just been something I've taken with me ever since. And so in my teaching, in my coaching, that's the number one thing I'm going for right from the get-go with all my kids is I want you to know your life matters. You matter to me. You're valued. And especially as teachers, I think it's so important. And as coaches, you get an opportunity to be with these kids in your classroom or on the court or wherever it is you may coach. Like, you might be the only person that says I love you to that kid. You might be the only I love you they hear in the day. You might be the only safe place they have to talk about the problems or what they're going through. You might be it. You might be the only thing they need. And so that's really what I want to try and get across to parents and to teachers and coaches and students themselves. As just being a student, you might be sitting right next to someone that just needs someone to listen to them. You might be sitting right next to someone that just needs you to say hi. And so it's just getting us all to be aware of everybody has these needs. Everybody wants the same thing, and just teaching us what that looks like and how we can give it to others.
So that's quite a powerful story. And absolutely, first and foremost, obviously sorry for your loss, but I'm also grateful for what that's brought you to and the people that you've been able to help because of what you've been through. And I think that's always a difficult thing for us as educators, is sometimes we feel that weight, knowing that a high five at the door might be the only positive contact that a student has that day. Or, as you said, telling them that you love them might be the only positive words that they hear throughout the entire day, especially knowing that we don't know all there is to know about our students. We get a small glimpse into their lives, and we don't always know what the home life is, what baggage that they're bringing into our classroom. And sometimes that can be a lot of weight upon a teacher's shoulders. How do you balance that in knowing the good that they can do while not feeling overburdened by some of these concerns and issues?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of always a fine line. You kind of have to balance there. For me, the way I always handled it was just understanding, like, I'm there to be nothing more at least than just an ear. Like, my job is to create at least just a safe place for you. If you feel that that's a place where you need to come to talk about what's going on, then that's great. Then I feel like, I've opened up that door for communication for you. As far as, taking it home, you've got to be able to recognize, though, like, there's only so much you can do. And as long as you're doing your part in your moment, I feel like that's what you got to be able to do. But you can't carry that back home and then take the burden of that to your family and everything else, because then you're basically making the same cycle again back home, because now your kids or your wife or husband or whoever it is at home, they're going to need something from you as well. And if you're still stuck on what someone else needed back at school, you're not going to be able to be fully present with your family. And then you leave your kids or your spouse with a need that's not being fulfilled by you. And now they're having the same cycle again of trying to find that somewhere else. And so you really got to be able to take care of, when you're at school, whatever else, take care of that need there. And then when you're home, you got to be able to take care of the needs that are at home.
It's a great point. Good insight. So as you mentioned that cycle, I know that's a big part of, for you in what you do with Be the Need, is explaining that cycle and identifying where those broken elements within those cycles are. How do you help families and students do that, and to help repair those broken cycles and to keep from falling back into them again?
Yeah. So this is kind of something I've been studying through the years, but through the years of working with kids and working with other adults, I've come to realize, and I've kind of really learned this from Tony Robbins, so I'm not going to take credit and just be like, oh, I came up with this on my own, but he really kind of like gave me the insight to this. And it's that all of us as human beings, we all have the same 6 human needs. We all have different desires, we all have different goals, but we all have the same 6 needs. And those are certainty. Funny enough, following that is uncertainty or variety. We have a need for significance. We have a need for connection and love. And then we have a need for contribution and a need for growth. And so really what Be the Need is teaching as well is what each of those needs looks like. And once you understand what those needs look like, how people meet them, then you're able to see, okay, I understand you're getting angry right now, or they blow up at a situation. I can understand that what you're really searching for is you're trying to gain some certainty back, and you may be trying to gain some significance back. And so once you're able to really see those, you can kind of take yourself out of it, and you don't take situations so personally as like, oh, they're attacking me. But you really start to see is like, they're just finding a way to meet their need. It may not be in a positive way, but they're just trying to meet their own need. And this is what they found has done that. So again, what we're really trying to teach out of Be the Need is understanding what those look like, and then being able to either help them find new ways of meeting those needs, or allowing ourselves to be involved enough in understanding ourselves and our needs and how we meet them, that we can have empathy for others rather than being judging.
Oh, very good. So let's kind of walk through a bit of the process where, let's say that you have a student or a family, and they're in need of that help. Something's issue or concern. How do you start this process? How do you start with helping a family or a student that could be borderlining on the middle, or in a full-blown crisis? What do you do?
Yeah, the very first thing you got to do is you got to understand their story. In order to be able to influence someone, you have to know what influences them. So the very first thing you got to be able to do is you've got to be able to sit there and hear their story, understand where they're coming from, what they've gone through, what they're battling with. So if I'm working with, and I've had a few now where we're working with the teen, and then we're working with the parents. first I like to get the teen side, because those are always going to be different than what the parents see as well. So let the teen tell his story, what he feels like he's been going through, what his parents are doing. Let him tell his side of the story, and then let the parents tell their story. Once you understand where everyone's coming from, again, being able to use the 6 needs, you then understand, like, I can understand for the child, he's using, again, I'll use anger because that's a really big one. He's using anger because he feels so uncertain about whether mom and dad are going to leave tonight, or whether dad's going to be here tomorrow morning because dad's always gone. So he uses anger as a way to find his security or certainty back. And then talking to the parents and understanding, hey, you know what? The parents, they feel out of control because their son's acting out. They don't know what to do. So they find their certainty from grounding the kid or restricting, having his phone. That's like, it seems to be parents' go-to right now is, okay, well, you don't get your phone. Not realizing, though, then by taking his phone, you're taking away his ability to have connection and love from his friends. So that causes a whole problem, because then now the teen sees you as battling or taking away his connection with someone else that he feels like he's missing, obviously, with the parents. So again, it's kind of a process, but that's the real start, is being able to understand what is it that's missing. What is your story? What has led you to this point? We all basically have a blueprint of what our life should look like, right? And I kind of use the example of building a house. We all have this different blueprint of what our house should look like. It should be 2 stories, 4 bedrooms, 3 bath, whatever it is. That's your blueprint of what your house should look like. But the problem comes from, okay, my life condition, though, isn't a 2-story, 4 bedroom, 3 bath. It's a 1-story, 2 bath, right? And so then what you have to be able to do is understand that, you still are in control of that. While your blueprint right now may be for the 2-story and life is giving you the 1-story, you still have the ability to change that. And if you can't change that, then it's changing your idea of what your blueprint should be. So that's where we really start with the kids, is just understanding what their story is, then understanding what their blueprint is, and then just getting them to see different ways of creating a new blueprint.
Oh, that's great. Not an easy thing by any means, but that's wonderful.
No,
Now,
it takes a little time sometimes, but and that's the other question I get a lot of times is, what do you do with a kid that doesn't want to change, or what do you do when you get a parent that doesn't want to change? And
great
again,
question.
you have to find leverage in what matters to them. And again, that's going to come from their story and finding out what life's about for them and how they hit that target, because everyone's going to be different. For some kids, the leverage of their life isn't even enough to get them to want to change, but it might be the leverage of their little sister. It might be the leverage of the little brother and what impact you're having on them or what your actions are doing to them. And then once you're able to find those leverage points, that's when you're able to get the change.
So with that, this kind of is a big question, but also one that just needs to be addressed, especially in Utah, looking at the data, looking at the statistics for the entire last decade. Every single year, we've still seen high school students' suicide rates increasing. Mm-hmm. How do we stop that? How do you combat that? How do you deal with something that's just that big and that has been that consistent, but we know it has to change and there's got to be a solution, but no one has been able to really seem to offer one, because every year it's still being a bigger problem. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what we're still trying to solve. I really believe we have some things that can definitely help kids understand that. In the years that I've been teaching and coaching, I don't say it's to brag or anything on that point, and I really wish I didn't even have it, but I honestly have a shoebox back at home of letters from kids where they literally wrote me at the end of the year or middle of the year, somewhere like that, and literally said, hey, I was planning on committing suicide. I was planning on ending my life, and I came to you and I talked about it, and you got me to change my mind. Again, and I'm not saying that this won't happen. As of this point, I haven't lost one student to a suicide that's been in my class. Any student I've ever had in class or that I've coached, I haven't lost one yet. I'm not saying it won't happen someday. I really hope it doesn't. But I think it's because there's some of the things I'm able to let them get a new light on, get a new perspective on. I think the suicide rates are just getting so high because there's there's this deep need to feel love and connection. That's one of our deepest things. And I mean, we use the example all the time of the Ukrainian orphanages where, you know, they had that experiment. If you've probably heard of it, where, you know, you had a group of babies that were picked up and goo goo gagas and all those others. And then the others were just their basic human needs were met. They were fed, they were bathed, you know, just the basic needs. And of the kids that were given just the basic needs, they either died or ended up with mental disabilities and all these other problems. And it just shows you that love and connection is such a huge part of just who we are as human beings. Like love and connection, that is the oxygen to the soul. And, you know, just like our bodies, if you don't have oxygen, what happens to your body? It dies. And the same thing happens to our souls. If we don't have that oxygen of love and connection from someone, our soul just dies. And for a lot of our kids, it's just understanding that, again, your blueprint about what love and connection may look like, maybe people are giving it to you, just didn't see it that way because your blueprint said it should be something different. And so getting them just to understand that, you know, your life does matter, and understanding that there's a ripple effect to your life. For myself, when I was in that place, I couldn't see that ripple effect. I was focused on just me and what my life was about and what was happening to me and how sad I was. I couldn't see the ripple effect of that point of what that would have meant to my family, to my parents, to my friends. I didn't even think about it. And so again, teaching them to understand that suicide has such a ripple effect on everyone. And learning, and that's what my sister taught me, was my life, it's not just about me. My life isn't about me. It's about the person next to me. Because when I make that connection with someone else, it lights me back up inside. And so whenever I find myself in those depressed states, it's teaching myself I got to get outside of myself. When I get depressed, when I was in that suicidal state, it was because I was all focused about me. Depression and everything else, it all comes from either what we're missing, what we should have, or what we lost. And you got to get outside of that. And again, teaching them that if you can trade your expectations for appreciation, your whole life can change right there. We can get rid of what I should have and what life hasn't given me and it's not fair. We can get outside of that and understand, like, you know what, I have people that care about me. I have a roof over my head. You know, you have all these things going for you. It's just a lot of times our mind just naturally is negative, and we're going to look for the negativity. But what you look about, or what you look for, you will find. I mean, it says in the good book, right? Seek and you shall find. If your mind is set that I'm just looking for all the negatives in my life, your mind's going to find it. And your mind works just like a computer as well. If you type in a question of why is my life so miserable, your mind's automatically going to come up with an answer. Well, because you're worthless, because nobody cares about you. It's going to find an answer. And if you can change the question, if you can ask a better question, you'll get a better answer. So if you can change that question from why is my life so miserable to what can I do to impact someone else's day, all of a sudden your mind gives a completely new answer to that question. And then you're able to get outside of yourself. And now by lighting someone else up, it, like I said, it does the same thing. It lights you back up, and now your life has purpose. So what we really try to do with Be the Need is getting kids, and this is what I'm still working towards doing, is finding a way to create a safe place for kids to go, whether that's at school or after school, whatever it is, where they can come in and they can talk about the struggles they're having and then be that support for each other. And I feel like once you're support for that person, you're able to now support someone else that's able to support someone else, and it just grows and grows and grows. And before you know it, your whole school is a community of support. There isn't anyone looking to tear each other down. There isn't anyone looking to point blame. Everyone's there to build each other up and to give each other their own light. And again, one of the sad things is as kids are looking for a way to find their light, a lot of times, again, it comes from pointing blame on somewhere else. You know, there's two ways to have the biggest building in town. You know, one is you work your butt off and you build it, or the other one is you just tear everybody else's building down. And sadly, I think our culture is getting to the point of it's much easier to tear someone else's down. And so we're a microwave society. We're always looking for the quick fix. And so, like I said, to tear someone else's building down takes no education, no training. All you have to do is sit there and point fingers at someone else, tear them down. All of a sudden, now you think you feel better. But sorry, that's a long spiel of about really what it is that is going to change that culture of I feel useless. I feel like my life has no meaning. Is you've got to give meaning to someone else.
That's great. You got to start somewhere, and I think it's a good place to be. I mean, look how many kids know how to play, slug bug game. They, even to adults, you still see adults, they'll still punch their friend, and they're like, yellow one.
Yep.
How great would it be if we were conditioning and teaching kids about seeing the positives, just like we do in slug bug? Because what you see, what you're looking for, you're going to find. It's easy to find a Volkswagen Beetle because you're looking for them. You know what it is. So identifying the positives in life, it's that same concept.
Absolutely.
It's all around us. It's always there, but are we really looking for it?
Absolutely. And again, and that just comes from the conditioning, and I won't get fully into it because again, that's a whole part of like the 3-hour, 6-hour seminar that we do. But just understanding how you meet your need. I mean, you can meet your needs in negative ways. And so, you can either meet your needs by, man, this has always happened to me, but you know what? I've always found a way to get through it. Right? Like, so that could meet your need for certainty right there. Or you can meet, man, this always happens to me. I don't know why I even bother. There's not even a point. You're still meeting your needs. You just met it now in 2 different ways.
Yep.
So it's teaching them how have you been meeting your needs through the years, and are they positive, negative, or are they neutral? And then how do we go about changing those if they are?
Yeah. You mentioned perspective. I think that's a big part of it. And it's not, obviously it takes training, it takes teaching and educating because it's not an easy thing.
No.
I was sitting with a group of teachers one time and they were asking, and not in a negative way, just a simple casual conversation, but they ask, as teachers, what's that one thing that you wish you could do without? So one thing that you hate about school that you wish was gone. And one said, administrator walkthroughs. I could do without those. Someone else said school meetings that could be handled with an email. And someone else was like handing in lesson plans. And then when they looked at me, and because of my perspective was a little different, I said I could do without attending another student's funeral. That's what I could do without.
Wow.
I've been to far too many of them, and I'm tired of it. It's heartbreaking. I hate it because I just know they're missing out on so much that they could give, that they can offer, and I hope that we find a way, and I hope that this indeed is on that right path that you're doing, because there are too many incredible, amazing young people out there that are ending their lives too soon, and it's devastating. And it's I hate to use the word epidemic, but the statistics are showing that continues. It truly is, and it hasn't been. I mean, we have so many things in place, and they're not always working. But I love that you're on that path, that you're doing that work, and that you're trying to find a way to help these kids and these families that are desperately in need.
Yeah. But what a powerful way of saying it, though. Like, absolutely. I mean, we sit here and we want to complain about all these things, but I mean, you look at that suicide. It's the number 2 killer of our teens right now, 12 to 35. It's number 2 killer in the nation. That's mind blowing to me. Like you said,
Yep.
And it is. It's an epidemic. And one of the slides we kind of use is again, you're cutting your life short. You have no idea what impact your life would have had on others, what your life would have had for all of us. And so one of the slides I use about is, showing pictures of just my kids even. Had I succeeded at 12 years old, my kid's life doesn't even happen. The kids I've been able to touch whose lives have hopefully been saved, that doesn't even happen. There's just this huge ripple effect that when you're in that mode, you can't even see it. You can't even believe that it's possible for you. But I said, there's just such a ripple. There's so much more coming in their life. They just have no idea. And it's just kind of finding that leverage to get them to see that and understand that, life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. And everything that you're going through is just building you into that person that you were meant to be. And like you mentioned, it's just training and getting your mind to understand that. And, I'm throwing a lot of these little kind of nuggets, but another kind of analogy we used all the time was, how do you make your dog your dog? Everyone goes through, you feed it, you take care of it, you brush it, you give it back, you do all these little things. And the one thing no one ever really says is like, well, they come when you call it, right? And it's kind of the same thing of your mind. You can train it to be your dog. When you need that guy to show up, when you need to be that influencer or that positive or whatever it is that you need to be, you can call on that and he shows up. And again, it's just kind of training the mind of how to do that and what it looks like in just the small process. You know, you don't get a brand new puppy and give him a name and he comes to you right away. It's these slow little things that are built out throughout life. It's, you know, your repetition becomes your reputation. And it's just
good.
It's just those little things over and over and over and over again.
So let's talk about now, as we kind of wrap things up, how do people find you? If we need, we get a listener that wants to know more, they want to talk to you. If some people want to participate, how do they find you online? Go ahead and give us that details, information. How can people get a hold of you and to learn more?
Yeah, so I really use Facebook and Instagram right now. You can find us at either one at Be the Need Movement. So you can go into Instagram or Facebook and find us there. I'm always trying to post daily insights. So ways right now, I'm really kind of focusing on the parents right now, how to connect with your kids, what it looks like. Again, the little things that you can do every day to make your kid know that you're there, that you care, meeting that need that they're looking for. So you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We have an event here this Thursday, so January 23rd. We have an event in Pleasant Grove. And then we'll also be having another one February 20th, also in Pleasant Grove. And you can find those. There's links to those in the Facebook and the Instagram accounts.
And we'll post those in our descriptions as well below, so you guys can check those out. Coach Robert Harmon, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a guest on A Stark Realization, but most important, thank you for the work you're doing to help families and students in crisis, and hopefully helping those before it becomes one.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. And like I said, I'm hoping that we can all be the need that others need. So I appreciate for the time and the opportunity to be here.
So thank you again. That was Coach Robert Harmon. And again, we'll have all the information of how you can get a hold of him. And all of you educators out there, keep doing what you're doing. Make a difference, helping those kids, letting them know that they matter, because that's what it's about. So thanks for tuning in to A Stark Realization. We'll see you next week.